Welcome back. Episode 52. Lisa's taking shots here before the
before it
episode
even
even
starts.
starts.
Mhm.
So,
She's kind of in a bullying mood, I think.
geez,
I'm in a
feisty.
good mood today.
Wow.
This should be
Coming
a good
out swinging here.
This should be a good show.
I'm on my third coffee. Let's go.
Third already?
Yeah,
Wow.
It's 8:45.
that doesn't matter.
This is going to be a good one.
Jeez. Okay, so we're gonna stick with what Lisa did last week, and we're gonna do 2 truths and a lie.
I like this format.
So for 50, yeah, I thought it was fun. So
Yeah.
good job, Lisa.
Thank
Wow.
you that you give me credit for it, pal.
Yeah. So 52. So number 1, there are 52 white keys on a standard piano. A year has 52 full weeks, and there are 52 bones in a human hand.
Go ahead, Lisa, since you're fired up.
Well, I start with C. Like there are 52 bones in a human hand. I can see that because there are like a lot of small bones here.
It's a big number.
It's a big number
Is
though
52
for,
the right
for
number?
one hand. I was like, when I look at my tiny hand, like 52 bones. I don't know how long they are, or if they're like, kind of 52 white keys on a stand-up piano. I think it's less black keys than there are white. Because
Wow.
the black are on top of the white keys, right?
Mhm.
And a year is 52 full weeks. I go with C with the lie. I think it's probably not exactly 52 bones.
Wow. Okay. 52 weeks in a full year. I think there's 52 plus a little bit, but I'm going to count that as 52. And then 52 bones in a hand. They are a lot of bones in your hand. And actually funny,
a lot of small bones.
my 2 college girls, one's in pharmacy and one's in nursing. For some reason, this discussion came up a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And it's a lot. And I think that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
So tip
Go
of
with
my
the
hat to
piano?
them. I'm gonna go with A, the piano. I have because my music talent is 0. I have no idea. And you're right. There is less black keys than white keys. I know that, but so
That's
I don't
all
know.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is actually B.
Oh, Tyler did it. The trick
Seriously?
question. Yeah, because it's like 50. It's 52 plus a couple days. Yeah.
52 times 7 is 364.
Oh, come on, Tyler.
So
You
it's
gotta
52 weeks plus 1 day, and a leap year
Yeah.
it's 52 weeks plus 2 days.
Oh, do you not round down here?
oh, boy.
Oh my
This
God,
is-
Tyler.
Yeah. Maybe we have to start the show over.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Record this again.
All right. On to the hot button. So I want to talk about diversification just because you're seeing a lot of differentiated performance recently. And I think investors especially in the US, get caught up with the home bias. And the first thing they see is the S&P 500, being down 11%. Obviously, rebound yesterday, rebound today. But I think it's an important aspect that it gets talked about, but I'd be curious you guys' thoughts on what diversification means for you. Like, is it just a balance between risk to the market? Is it different asset class exposures? Like, what do you guys think of when you think of diversification?
Go ahead, Lisa.
I see it more on an allocation basis and not bonds versus equities. I think that's more of a risk thing, how you want to kind of put that together. And that's part of diversification. I get that. But I see diversification more on like the risk side. When we take, for example, equities, that you kind of do not only have US, but also international developed and EM, depending on whatever outlook or whatever kind of, and also maybe putting in some gold or other alternatives.
So for you, it's more different asset classes than it
Yes.
is like a 60-40 portfolio.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's also kind of spread your wings a little bit across the US, especially as you said, there's a lot of people having home bias. And I mean, the last 2 years, we do not have to think a lot about that, right? There was US exceptionalism. The last couple of years, when you compare to international developed, the US outperformed like for years, especially the last 2 years. But that does change, that does rotate, and you do not necessarily know when this happens. So I think, and we see it this year, there's value in diversification, and you will not always be right. But in case something happens like this year where the US kind of slacks pretty much the international ones, that's the value of diversification, right? You're not always the best spot, but not always in the worst spot either. So
Yeah, for me, I would say, well, the reason you diversify is you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. If people have heard that saying before, so you don't want to have one straight investment, whether it's U.S. markets, emerging markets, or whatever, or stocks or bonds. For me, I would say diversification starts, it's 2 layers. It would start on the high layer of the 60-40 kind of, this is what we should allocate to stocks. This is what we should allocate to safe or bonds, that 60-40 split. So obviously you want a diversified portfolio, even though the stock market over long periods of time are a lot better than the bond market. You still don't want to have everything in the bond market or the stock market.
Case in point this year.
Case in point this year, right? Where bonds are up and stock markets are down 10, 12%. So again, diversifying just reduces your level of risk. And then within that, on the stock side of things, let's talk about that. I would say we've been certainly US centric here for the last, here especially, but just in general for the last couple decades has been better than other places. So I say, yes, you want diversification, but you just got to make sure you allocate properly. And you don't want to, make huge bets that just because emerging markets or international developed underperform that you want to put all your eggs in that basket either. So you just want to have a proper allocation. And again, diversification just reduces your level of risk. On the flip side is usually in those years they diversified when the S&P was up 25%, your portfolio probably was not up 25% and diversified. So the puts and takes. It just reduces your level of risk. It probably reduces your potential upside, but it certainly reduces your potential downside.
Yeah, I think the other part of that is, at least what I see is, people say they're diversified when they own 4 large cap US market ETFs. It's like, that's not diversification. Yes, you have your money spread across 4 or 5 different ETFs, but you own the same exact thing basically. So I would agree with you. I think you have to look at it I think you start out with the risk level for diversification, say, how risky do I want to be relative to the market? Do I want to have 60% in the market? Do I want to 70? And then you start to pick that apart and say, what asset classes within equities do I want to have exposure to? Do I want to have how much US developed, international developed, emerging?
Precious metals, like you just mentioned. Metals. I mean, that's been, we talk about a run last 3
gold's
years.
Up 30% this year.
30%. The S&P's down 10. That's a delta of 40%.
So I can't remember I think the last 20 years, because now the Spider Gold ETF and the Spider S&P ETF all have 20-year track records now. And over those 20 years, they've performed almost identically.
Because there'll go periods where you have this massive outperformance, but then you have massive underperformance. Now, question I got, obviously the last couple of weeks and got again yesterday is, would you guys be buying gold here?
I would not.
Lisa?
Well, I mean, it performed really well this year and last year and the year before.
And the
So
year
that's
before.
not the first year that it does so well. But I think when you look at that, and it kind of makes new all-time highs literally every day now, which is weird. And there is a time when this will stop. But when we look at the uncertainty that's out there and all the craziness with different policies and different changes and businesses not knowing how to prepare for all of that necessarily, potential economic impacts, negative ones, then I think that's part of why gold is performing so well in the first place. But I do not see that necessarily changing in the near future.
So you'd be buying it here? Tyler gave us a nice, concise answer of no.
I would say so, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going with Tyler's, rationale, just because, I mean, if you had to go yes or no, I mean, I think you can have a small allocation. If you don't own any, that's fine. But I read a stat yesterday, we're in the 0.5% of extended over the 200-day for the last 2 decades. Anytime you get any stat like that,
Krinsky's note yesterday.
It's crazy that whether it's a stock market that extended individual stocks, usually what happens, the old reversion to the mean. Not that gold necessarily has to collapse or anything, but I think if all this, part of the reason it's a fear factor and all this noise going on, if that starts to slow or dissipate, I think that's where you could see a sell-off in gold.
I think where you're getting the incremental buyer right now is, we're hearing and we've talked about it, we're hearing about the tariffs and the trade deficit unwinding and people getting out of treasuries, other countries getting out of treasuries. And there's really, when you start to look at where else can they go, there really isn't a whole lot of places they can go. And so I think a lot of that money is being funneled. The proceeds from any sale of any U.S. treasuries is probably being funneled into gold right now.
And
So
I mean that's my part.
and maybe
where
that
I would-
continues.
yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe
Yeah,
that
yeah.
does
Yeah.
continue, but I think you probably see some kind of
In the
pullback
short,
here.
I think,
in
yeah.
the short
Yeah.
term.
Yep.
Yeah. The other part about diversification is whenever I have friends and family ask me about so I helped my sister-in-law a couple years ago set up her IRA because she had switched jobs. So she was
Yep.
rolling it over from a 401k to an IRA. And she just wanted how to allocate it. Right. And I just chose 5 or 6 different ETFs, but it was pretty candid. I use it when I talk to people about if they want to pick and choose, like with the 401k here at Gradient, we have different options that they can choose. Or if they ask for 401k allocations at someone else's work, it's usually like X percent, depending on how risky they want to be. It's a certain percentage in US large cap, US mid cap, US small cap, international developed, emerging markets, and then maybe a little bit of bonds and gold in there. And that's really all it is. And it's pretty canned.
Yep.
But I think that's a good just starting point for anybody that starts investing and isn't sure where to go, is just find an ETF like that. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with that, if there should be more thought to it, but that's kind of my general allocation.
No, and
as well.
I do the same thing. It's kind of the KISS model. Keep it,
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, right. Because it's especially the most of the people that you're probably talking to and the people that I have in the past, it's people that are in the accumulation phase that
Yeah.
are probably 30, 40, putting money into a 401k. I do the exact same thing. I lean heavier on the US. I'm a US centric guy, but I do have a little small allocation.
Usually it ends up being like 15 to 20% international developed and then 5 to 10% emerging.
Yeah, those are probably even higher than I generally for the younger people, but same ballpark.
Yeah.
I like your split, and it's the large cap, which is the S&P 500. Roughly, I do anywhere from generally from 60 to 75, depending on their age and how aggressive they want to be, and then kind of walk it down just like you did to have some small mid cap exposure in there, and then throw a little piece of international. And then again, if they're in a pure accumulation phase, bonds usually have 0 to a smaller percent. Now, as you get older, right, then you start changing that allocation.
Right. Lisa, how do you, like when you talk to friends and family, do you have a similar type of strategy, or is it more specific for them?
Not really. It's pretty similar, actually, if not the same. It's like, hey, how risky do you want to have it to begin with? Most of them are pretty young, like my siblings. So they're like the most aggressive.
No, so most of my siblings are old. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I'm the oldest. So they're all younger than I am.
But you're only 25.
Right. Yeah. They're even younger.
They probably don't have jobs yet.
Yeah. Right. But it's basically the same thing. So they're all very aggressive because they have a long horizon. And they're interested in that. And it's similar setup.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need to be. I mean, the point of this whole thing is I don't think you need to go be exotic.
No.
Especially for long-term accumulation, I think the best thing is make sure you invest, especially if people have 401k plans. Invest as much as you can, and then make sure you're, every company's different on their match.
Yeah.
And the biggest advice I'd give, make sure you're taking advantage of that.
I think that's a danger, right? Then you see like all the new interesting stuff out there that you could invest in, and then you kind of try it out or think you have to do it. But at the end of the day, it's like pretty
easy
simple.
those
2x, 3x levered type
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
Inverse.
They can come and go.
Yeah.
I mean, this year's a great case in point of why diversification matters. Because I mean, you've got gold up 30, international developed stocks are up almost 7. The bond market's up 1.5. Emerging markets are flat. Bitcoin down 6. US dollar down 9. Dow Jones down 10. S&P down 12, and Nasdaq down 15. This is as of Monday's close.
Yep.
And that's year to date. So the other aspect of this that we have been talking about at least for most of this year, is anybody that was a 60-40 portfolio starting at the end of 2022, at the end of 2024, that was a 70-30. And so all of a sudden, if you haven't rebalanced over those 2 years and you've got a down 12% market because you're focused on S&P 500 typically, you're probably taking a lot more pain than you were probably expecting to take.
Yeah.
And so you might be questioning, what am I invested in, or why am I doing so poorly, right? I think that also turns into more questions from the client side of what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's why we diversify, right? You don't get out. Typically, you're not going to get all that upside in those past 2 years, but then you're certainly not getting that downside you're seeing now. So the other thing is, all these different asset classes are great. And then people start getting nervous. Emotions, right? That's the thing we haven't talked about is emotions coming into, that's why it's good to have a good financial advisor. I had one the other day that he's hearing another advisor in their town away from us and him. They're recommending clients go all cash because the market's pulled back. What do you guys think about that?
That I do not recommend.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
It's so hard to time.
Yeah, it's. I think that's silly, but I think that's a mistake because you have to make. Mike Banger says it all the time: is you have to make two decisions when you make that go all cash. It's like you go all cash, and then you have to make the decision. Also, when the market starts going the other way, you have to make the decision of when you're going to buy back in.
And
typically,
when will that be?
Yeah, and you don't want to buy higher than where you sold,
Yeah.
and then it's like. Case in point would be that 2020 when markets are down 35% in a matter of 5 weeks.
Yeah.
You
And
started
some
to hear
clients went out cash and have missed
the market,
basically everything until
Well,
2020.
market doubled a year later.
Even
so.
this year, right? I mean, after Liberation Day, you've got 2 days where the market's down almost 5%. That Monday was also pretty bad. And then you have markets up 9% on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And if you felt like it was everything was going to get worse emotionally, it felt like crap on Monday because you didn't hear any relief from the tariffs. Market's down another 2, and you might start saying, well, maybe I should get out before this thing keeps tumbling. And then all of a sudden you go to cash.
Yeah.
And you miss out on a 9% day.
Yeah.
No, and that's why it's important. That's why we do the show to kind of help people with information and kind of stick to your plan, work with your financial advisor. I mean, these guys are doing things in the best of your interest, and they should have a diversified plan. That was the point of this whole topic is,
and it's also, I mean, it's hard, when you look into your portfolio and you're down, and it always feels like this is the worst time ever, and this is the one unprecedented time where everything goes down. And in the last, I don't know, 10 years, we had that. Like that's the third time.
Yeah, we just
in
talked
March
about
2020. Then in 2022 was not a good year overall. In March, overall the year was not bad, but that couple of months felt worse, and then this. So it's like it happens like every
Did we talk about that?
years,
You said you're 25 and you've seen 3 pretty big
major-
pullbacks, right? It's just like that's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm a lot older than that. And I've
See,
never
this is
seen
why you
that
got to be
many.
careful when you're shooting bullets everywhere. You can get some coming back at you.
Well, there is no lies told here.
All right. Last question on diversification, and then we'll move into the next topic. But how often do you think someone should rebalance?
I think there's an approach out there where you do it like on a calendar basis, like I don't know, semi-annually or quarterly. I do not necessarily think that's the best approach. I think it has to do more with performance and outperformance, and based on that should determine when to rebalance rather than now we have the calendar and it tells us we have to rebalance and now we do it.
If you've got bonds up 5%, stocks up 5%,
Yeah.
you probably don't need to do anything.
Right, correct. So it's probably a little, and it all has tax implications. So you have to take that into account as well, which I think the better approach is look at the actual outperformance and how the percentages change rather than doing it strict on a calendar basis.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I would say you should at minimum be looking at once a year just to make sure you look at the plan and say, okay, this looks proper. And then if you have some outsized movements within the market, up or down, maybe then you should say, okay, maybe now is a good time to either add to risk or dial it back, on the outperformance years. But yeah, I think at least look at it on the calendar. You don't have to rebalance. If you're a 60-40 client, it's like 62-38, probably don't need to rebalance.
All right. So this is going to lead us into our spaghetti well, because I really want to do our spaghetti well this week, because we're going to do a stock playoffs or Magnificent Seven playoffs, since we're NBA, NHL playoffs has started. So this will kind of lead us into it, but earnings season has officially started, right? We've already heard from most of the major banks, but tech really starts kicking off this week and next week. So we had Tesla last night. We had Netflix last week. Google is tomorrow. And then next week, we've got Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta. And then NVIDIA is not for another couple of weeks after that. So which one out of all of the big Mag 7 tech stocks are you most excited for or interested in? And which one are you most nervous for?
I keep on talking about, besides Costco, one of my other favorite stocks. Not on the list, so I can't pick that one. It's going to be Amazon. I like it. It's not too often I get table pounding kind of interest levels. I think we're there. I think as cheap as it's ever been. There's a lot of overhang with tariffs, whether AWS is slowing. So that's what I'm most interested in, to see if they're still on pace to where I think they'll be. Again, it's hard to call a quarter, so I'm not calling it a quarter. I'm just saying if you look out a year, I think the stock should be, work quite a bit higher. But again, so that's the one I'm most excited to see and kind of the most nervous at the same time.
Lisa?
I think when we stick with the Magnificent Seven names, I would say Apple, because they have like a couple of rough quarters, right? I mean, the iPhone super cycle did not materialize where everyone was thinking and hoping for. Their AI is kind of still, their AI integration is still a little bit wonky. They were the last ones to announce that, and now they have, rising competition. They couldn't still figure it out, like how it works and how it's supposed to help the consumer in the end. And then they have struggles in China, which got worse over the last couple of quarters. They're losing share there. Chinese consumers are more happy with their own produced phones. And I know it's not our favorite name at the moment, but we still own it. And I think, especially with tariffs and policy changes, where Apple is on the forefront of the impacts, and even though that got postponed on laptops and iPhones, I think I'm especially interested in how the China business turns out, because that's a huge part of the revenue, and especially what their commentary is, how they kind of take countermeasures or how they are viewing it. So I think that's one of the interesting ones for me to look at.
Tyler?
I'm most interested in Google, just because valuation is so cheap. They've had a couple of they've been okay quarters, but the stock hasn't reacted well.
Fair.
So I'm most interested to see them, see how YouTube's holding up. I'm most nervous for, this might be surprising, Meta. Reason being is I'm curious, as we go down this tariff path, one of the easiest things for these companies to do is pull ad spend. And a lot of times it starts out with like Snapchat ad pull first, and then you wait until the last minute to pull any Facebook or Instagram ads.
Yep.
But I'm most nervous for their commentary around that.
Nice. So. No, I don't disagree. I mean, I like Meta a lot, but I certainly do think that one's going to be interesting on the quarter. I think I really like it, so sticking with it.
All right. So on that backdrop, since we know who's nervous and which ones we're excited for, we're going to do playoffs for the Magnificent Seven.
Ooh, I like this format.
So I ranked them in order by who had the best stock performance last year. And so the question is, through the playoffs, is who is going to have the best performance from here on out till the end of 2025.
This is fun.
So we'll list them off in order. So NVIDIA was first. Netflix. I added Netflix just to make the bracket easier.
Plus, they should be in that group anyway.
They should. Magnificent Eight.
Yeah.
We can kick out Tesla. Then we are back at Magnificent Seven.
So we've got NVIDIA, Netflix, and then Meta, and then Tesla, Amazon, Google, Apple, and Microsoft, which really kind of surprised me, takes the eighth spot.
Or it kind of does a little surprise me when you look at it.
All right. So round one, first seed versus 8th seed, NVIDIA and Microsoft. Who comes out on top for the rest of this year?
You want Lisa and I to go independently or together?
You guys can go together or independent. Whatever.
Go ahead, Lisa. You go. I know who I'm picking.
You want your own?
I'm gonna.
I do want my own.
Okay, Keith.
Lisa's a little spicy this morning. So.
I think that's the one from that round where I'm most not sure about, to be honest.
Okay.
Boy.
I go with Microsoft.
All right.
Lisa and I, same page. Nice pick, Lisa. You're spot on today.
All right. So now let's go to the 4 and 5 seed.
Tyler, are you gonna throw an opinion there?
Oh, I'm with Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So we're all on the same page. All right. 4 and 5. Tesla is number 4. Amazon is 5th seed.
Battle Royal.
Who's coming
That's
out
an
on
easy
top?
one. Amazon.
Amazon. I know what Keith's gonna
Yeah, I
say.
gotta say Amazon.
Amazon.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
I got to go with Amazon too. All right.
Well, I mean
Nothing-
that could be the one that Tesla's just got so much. You can either just get. It's one of those like if you were going into the bracket in NCAA tournaments, this could be one of those Cinderella upsets, kind of where.
Yeah, Tesla very well could
just destroy the whole field.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go to the 2 seed and 7 seed. Netflix is the 2, Apple is the 7. Who comes out on top?
Netflix.
Netflix.
Wow, Lisa and I, maybe I should have said we were going to
Yeah,
on the same
but now you're
thoughts
in your
here.
own group, Keith.
Yeah, I'm going
Your Netflix
all the
Gosh.
way because Apple the one that
Yeah.
I do have concern about. Until
Yeah.
Lisa covered it well, so I do think that they're
Yeah,
got some issues.
Mm.
especially China.
Yep.
Shipment exposure.
Tariffs,
how much can they get over
how
to
much
India?
slow down
Yeah.
and
I'm
so-
Netflix too.
Wow, this might be bad. You know what's going to happen?
I know.
We're going to end up going the other way.
All right. This one, I think this is going to be the one where you probably get some differentiation.
Mhm.
So 3rd seed versus 6th seed. Meta's the 3rd. Google, Alphabet is the 6th. Who comes out on top?
All right, let's let the bully go first.
I don't know. After Nvidia and Microsoft, this is the toughest one, I would say. I go with Google.
Yeah, I'm going Meta. I told you it's good. So
So
Lisa and I
yeah,
at least are
Google.
different on one.
Mm,
And Meta.
but that's like, coin
Toss
flip,
up for
yeah,
you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where I always get caught up here between these two.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna stick with Meta.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go Google.
Lisa is in her own boat here.
Yeah, well, that's good though.
As
We
much
gotta
as
have a
I'm
little
nervous
different.
for them, I think they still between the AI potential and
Even
I
with a
think that
value discount.
they're the last people that anybody's gonna pull advertising from. So
I think Google can still do well. So I think
Yeah.
to Lisa's point, I think that one's that's a tougher matchup for me.
it's unfortunate because I think those two can both do well
Mhm.
Yeah.
for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
All right. So that leaves us. We've got Microsoft defeating the number 1 seed. So
Yeah,
8th
that's a
seed over the
surprise.
1st. Now up against Amazon, which was also an upset, 5th seed versus 4th seed. So we've got the 8 versus the 5. So who comes out on top, Microsoft or Amazon?
Well, I'll start because I like Amazon, so that's where I'm going.
I
Lisa?
second that.
Oh,
Really?
Amazon, yeah.
I'm going Microsoft.
nice. I
Mhm.
like the divergence here.
All right. So that's
Tyler is
So-
struggling with his
Well, it's gonna have the brackets are
well,
going
now,
to change.
now it's hard
now.
because the
Yeah,
brackets are
yeah,
different.
Yeah,
so
yeah. So that's
okay.
fair.
All right. So now, Lisa,
Yeah.
we've got Netflix, the 2 seed,
Yep.
versus you went with Google, the 6 seed. So you had another
Netflix.
upset for
Oh,
Google.
you're going Netflix.
Netflix.
You're going Netflix. Okay.
So I picked both the 2
So
and the 3.
so Keith, you had Netflix
Yep.
and Meta.
Yeah, I'm going Meta. I'm going to 3 seed. A little upset.
All right. Oh, I'm going. I got to go Meta just because of
Oh,
valuation.
Tyler and I are on the same boat. Might be sinking, huh, Lisa?
Mm.
All right. Championship.
I screw a hole in your boat first. Then.
Yeah, I figured that.
All right, Lisa. So you've got Amazon
Yeah.
versus Netflix. So you've got
Amazon.
so you got the 5th seed versus the 2 seed. And you're going Amazon in
Yep.
the 5th.
Amazon for the championship? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
That's where you're going?
Yeah. All in on Amazon, baby.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I've got Microsoft versus Meta. I'm going Microsoft as the
Look
as
at
the
you.
champ.
What was it against Meta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tyler, look at underdog Tyler, number 8
Mhm.
seed. He's got it
8
going all the
seed.
way.
Oh, yeah.
That's a bold call. I like it. A little bit of
That's what I'm
reversion to
going
the
with.
mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
So 2 Amazon.
2
one-
Amazon versus Microsoft. So we'll see where we
We'll
land
score
at
it,
the end of
yeah.
the year. I'll have to keep track of this.
Callers call in and make sure when we do a
Yeah.
review come January.
Yeah, but we
Yeah,
have to go back to this.
Keep
then,
us
yeah.
honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see who comes out on top.
Tyler might
Yeah.
have to post this in the comment section, the individual
Yeah,
brackets.
I'll put up a bracket and I'll throw it up on the comment section.
Yeah, and then you
That'd
can
be
see if
fun.
we get any stalkers out
Yeah,
there
we'll
that kind of can harass us.
I can know of one. Can
All
think
right.
of one.
So we'll leave it there. So thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe if you like what we're doing. And I guess we'll see you next time for episode 53. Until then.